an independent editorial analysis of Japan's defense posture and security policy.
In the high-stakes theater of East Asian security, the focus of observers often fixates on the sleek profiles of fifth-generation fighters, or the imposing silhouettes of aircraft carriers. Yet, in any credible scenario involving a contingency around the Taiwan Strait or the Nansei Islands, the outcome may well be decided by a less glamorous category of assets. The strategic airlifter. Tasked with sustaining high-intensity operations across vast maritime distances, this platform becomes the central nervous system of any military response. The diverging design philosophies behind Japan's Kawasaki C-2 and China's Xian Y-20 offer a profound insight into how Tokyo and Beijing envision the future of conflict. These are not merely transport aircraft. They are physical manifestations of two fundamentally different strategic imperatives: global power projection versus rapid, localized archipelago defense. China's development of the Y-20, particularly the recent maturation of the fleet with indigenous WS-20 high-bypass turbofan engines, signals a clear intent to emulate the logistical reach of the United States. This aircraft is a heavy hauler in the traditional sense, designed to move main battle tanks and large volumes of material across continents. By replacing the older, less efficient Russian engines, the People's Liberation Army Air Force has unlocked the full potential of the airframe, extending its range and its payload capacity to roughly 66 tons. This evolution serves a doctrine of expansion, allowing Beijing to project power far beyond the first island chain, on supporting operations in Africa, the Middle East, and arguably anywhere a runway of sufficient length exists. The Y-20 is built for volume and distance, a logical choice for a military force seeking to secure global interests and sustain prolonged expeditionary campaigns. Conversely, the Kawasaki C-2 represents a triumph of niche engineering over raw scale, tailored specifically to the unique geographical constraints of the Japanese archipelago. Critics often point to the high unit cost, estimated at roughly $200 million. They see it as a sign of inefficiency in the Japanese defense industry. However, this perspective overlooks the specific operational requirements that rendered off-the-shelf options, like the American C-17 or C-130J, insufficient for Japanese planners. The C-2 was designed to solve a complex equation: the need to carry heavy payloads, such as the Maneuver Combat Vehicle or the Type 12 surface-to-ship missile system, while maintaining the speed of a commercial jetliner, and crucially, the ability to operate from short, austere runways. The decision to equip the C-2 with General Electric CF6 engines, the same reliable power plants found on many civilian wide-body airliners, was a masterstroke of logistical commonality and performance optimization. These engines provide the aircraft with a thrust-to-weight ratio that allows for rapid climbing and high-speed cruising, capabilities that are critical in the congested and potentially contested airspace over the East China Sea. In a combat scenario, speed is not merely a convenience, it is a survival factor. The ability of the C-2 to ingress, offload, and egress a danger zone faster than a turboprop counterpart reduces its exposure to hostile anti-access systems. This high subsonic speed also facilitates rapid redeployment of forces from the northern garrisons in Hokkaido to the southwestern front. A strategic necessity, given the elongated geography of Japan. Perhaps the most critical, yet frequently underappreciated, advantage of the C-2 lies in its short takeoff and landing performance. The strategic geography of the Nansei Islands is defined by a scarcity of major airfields. Relying solely on long runways would create critical vulnerabilities, as these static locations would undoubtedly be the primary targets of an opening missile barrage. The C-2 possesses the agility to operate from civilian airstrips as short as 900 meters to 1,200 meters, allowing the Air Self-Defense Force to disperse its logistics network. This capability to utilize the runway at an island like Yonaguni or Ishigaki changes the calculus of reinforcement. It permits the rapid insertion of mobile radar units and missile batteries directly to the tactical edge, turning the archipelago into a distributed fortress rather than a series of isolated targets. The Y-20, with its heavier footprint and longer runway requirements, lacks this degree of tactical flexibility within a constrained island environment. However, a purely technical comparison masks a glaring strategic vulnerability for Tokyo. The industrial disparity between the two nations has resulted in a dangerous gap in fleet numbers. While China produces the Y-20 at a rate that suggests a high tolerance for attrition, the Japanese production line operates with the painstaking slowness of a boutique workshop. With a fleet size hovering below 20 operational airframes and a delivery rate of only 1 or 2 units annually, Japan possesses a brittle logistical backbone. In a high-intensity conflict, the loss of even a few C-2 transports would be catastrophic, significantly degrading the ability to sustain operations. Quality, in this context, has a breaking point that quantity does not. The superior avionics and aerodynamic performance of the C-2 cannot compensate for a lack of airframes if the logistical chain snaps under the weight of combat attrition. This numerical disadvantage helps explain the recent shift in Japanese defense planning toward giving the C-2 a more offensive role. The investigation into palletized munition systems, conceptually similar to the Rapid Dragon program of the United States, indicates a desire to transform the transport fleet into a dual-role asset. By enabling the C-2 to launch long-range standoff missiles like the JASDF or upgraded Type 12 variants from its cargo ramp, planners aim to create an asymmetric dilemma for an adversary. This concept effectively turns a transport aircraft into a temporary strategic bomber, allowing it to unleash a saturation strike from a safe distance before returning to its logistical duties. It is a pragmatic, if desperate, innovation, born of the realization that Japan cannot match the sheer hull count of the Chinese fleet and must therefore maximize the lethality of every platform it possesses. The operational reality of the C-2 also highlights the shift in Japan from a static, beach defense posture to a dynamic, cross-domain mobility doctrine. The ability to transport an 8x8 wheeled armored vehicle or a mobile missile launcher swiftly implies that the ground forces are no longer expected to hold ground passively, but to maneuver rapidly between islands. This mobility depends entirely on the reliability and availability of the transport fleet. While the Y-20 serves as a symbol of rising superpower status, projecting influence across oceans, the C-2 serves as the essential sinew of a defensive shield, specifically engineered to exploit the island geography that defines the region.